What's up, everybody? Thanks so much for joining me for another video here today. As always, I'm Diamond Mine. Welcome back to the Diamond Mine, where we learn fast, we hit the ground running, and we sometimes delete our introductions. Now, if you don't know who Andrew Locke is, y'all are in for a treat today. You saw the title? Let's watch some Gaffer and gear. Okay, a couple announcements. I finally got a hold of our winner for the 100 subscriber prize. Congrats, I hope you hit your goal of 1,000 subscribers. Next, I wanna try something new. I think I'm gonna start introducing our shots, like the gear, camera, mic, all that. I re-watch a lot of tutorial and gear videos, not because I didn't learn it the first time, but just because I like looking at gear. But there's not really a reason to make a second how to do a 3-point lighting tutorial, but I do want to see it set up every time you set it up. Like a perfect example is PD Mokri. Go check him out, like and subscribe if you haven't already. I've watched his grip package videos like a dozen times, and that's my window shopping. Now, it might not apply for a lot of YouTubers that like to set up their studio so they can sit down and press record. I don't like that. I honestly like setting up the lights, the mic, the gear, the camera, more than I like being on camera. So before we hop over to the desk and put on some Gaffer and gear, let's talk about what we got set up here. That's like twice today. I'm not intentionally rhyming. All right, let's start from the camera and work our way back. So this is my new ZV-E1. It's actually my first camera. Super stoked to use this. I had this port keys monitor with the iPhone, so I didn't have to get one when I picked this up. It is the kit lens, but we'll probably get more. It does the job for now. Then we've got over here, I love Ulanzi, one of my favorite lights from them, heavy duty, plus the 85 centimeter softbox, the MKE 600? Yeah, MKE 600. What do you guys use for bounce? Foam core? Do you have your own, frames and everything set up? This is from Ambitful. They have green magenta shift, and they're actually really decent, even though it's I've never heard of this brand. And look, they totally tried to rip off the Aperture logo with a little red slash. Anyway, and then this bad boy over here, along with that bad boy over there, are the GVM 1000D, but you can pop any other lights you want there for bounce or whatever. And then the background, on top of that blue, has a bunch of these little pocket LEDs that I just can't get enough of. We've got two from Ulanzi. No, actually, I think they're all from Ulanzi, but two of these wannabe MCs, right? And then these tubes, they make these tubes that are look at this. Then in that same series, we got two of these bad boys over here. So I think it has a good vibe, but you do have to work fast a lot of times because, none of them are plugged in. Anyway, let's hop to the desk. So we've got this USB mic from a company called Mayono. I really like these. It's focused here. And they actually sound really great. I was surprised. I thought I'd have to do a little bit more to them, but they sound, probably just because they're so close to your face. But what I really like about them is the fact that this one is USB and goes straight into the iPhone. All right, these aren't the most expensive or greatest lights in the world, but they're fine for just having fun on YouTube and whatnot. They're the Ulanzi LTO 28s, and these are 40 watts. We've got the 30 centimeter softbox with the grid and the 30 centimeters lantern. I've got it on these desk mounts, which I love. Now we'll be watching on the iPad, and I cannot rave about this enough. This is the AT01 and 02 combination from Ulanzi, plus a tablet mount from a company called Leap Lumen. Okay, we're actually trying out a couple new things here. I have the iPhone recording just straight audio with the voice memos coming straight out of this. Now, as I understand, it's set on lossless right now, and so I think that's 32-bit float. I read that that's what it is, but we'll see. Let's check out Gaffer and gear.
Hi everybody, and thank you for joining me again on another episode of Gaffer and Gear. I really do appreciate you watching. Otherwise, there's no point in me making these episodes. Today, we're having a look at this massive Nanlux accessory that is made for the Evoke series of lights. This is their parallel beam reflector.
Badass. It's enormous. It's almost the size of the bat signal.
Okay, let's start off the episode without the usual regular disclaimers. I am not getting paid any money to do this review, and at the end of the episode, I don't get to keep the product. This is the only one in Australia, and it's required on a shoot in Queensland in 4 days' time. Now it takes 3 days to get it shipped up there because Australia is a massive country. So at the end of the episode today, this has got to be packed up and got to be out of here. So just some limitations in regard to that. I haven't had time to test.
I really want to emphasize that. He is the dopest gaffer / reviewer on YouTube that it's due on a production, what do you say, 3 or 4 days across the entire continent. And they made sure that he got it first. I think that says a lot to him as a gaffer, as a YouTuber, as a reviewer. I appreciate you watching the video. Otherwise, what's the point of even making them? I guess. Anyway.
This on anything other than the 2400B. Now, if you're working in close range with this thing at full power, 400 ISO is a ridiculous ISO to be taken readings at, but this is designed for long throws. And on those long throws, really 400 ISO makes sense. I didn't want to change ISO halfway through the episode because I have found in the past that confuses people. All right, so let's quickly go over cost and what
I'm sure he gets a ton of dumbass comments that he has to deal with, like people like me. Is that the bad signal?
In Australia, it's listed for typically $4,300, so that's quite a bit of money. So what do you get for that money? Well, of course, you get the parallel beam reflector, you get the massive bag that it comes in, and you get a cap to put over the back. Now let's go over some of the features. It has feet on the front, so that when you take it off the light, you can put it face down onto the ground. It also has 2 feet on the back, so that you can rest it on the ground without having to pack up the snoot. We'll talk about the snoot in a minute. It also has a Perspex cover to keep insects out and also give you weather protection. Otherwise, if you pointed this thing upwards in the rain, it would become the world's most expensive bucket. One con for me is this thing is fully locked off and it does have a bit of play in it. You're definitely going to need to deploy some magic arms onto the back. Now, in terms of a pro, this thing might be very large, but it is...
I just want to pause right there. That is really smart. I never would have thought of that. That's why he's the best. Anyway, let's see what he says next. I think he's going to pros.
It's very lightweight. It is under 10 kilograms. So one person by themselves can very easily take this off and put it back onto the light. Okay, so let's talk about what we've got here.
He deals with modifiers that you can't do that with?
But it's not actually parallel.
Frames, maybe.
It's a 6-degree beam. So why didn't they call it a 6-degree reflector?
It's pretty parallel, isn't it?
My guess is if you're using this in close range, it doesn't act like a 6-degree reflector would. It's sort of a compromise somewhere of the two. So without the bafffolding, you could arguably have a 45-degree reflector with an insane hotspot, or you'd have a 6-degree reflector with an insane amount of drop-off. Now here's the thing with the bafffolding. The reason it's in this section here and not all the way out to the edges is it needs to keep this section clear so that the reflector can do its job. Now, because these sections here don't have bafffolding, the bafffolding is not doing a job of stopping stray light coming through here. So you can see light hitting me directly. Now, to compensate for this, what they have is these 4 carbon fiber barn doors that fold out.
What the hell? It sounds like a tom-tom. It sounds like a kick drum or something. Doors? Are those barn doors?
So you just bend them in and Velcro them together.
What the hell?
To create a snoot.
Oh, the snoot. I thought he was gonna bust out like
and
a
now we don't have
projector
any stray
mount
light out of our 6-degree beam. Now let's talk about the reflector. And
wait,
at
I
the
want to
distance
pause for a second. So I don't know if you guys caught that, but the way that thing works is it's not a true parallel beam that comes out. It's not just a consistent parallel beam. 6 degrees at a far throw like that is pretty close to parallel, you know what I mean? But the way that it works is it's got the middle section, those rings, and then you got the reflector behind it, but the reflector really only is coming out of the side area. So it's got like a donut beam. And then you've got hard light coming straight off the cob going through those rings. And so you have a beam in the center. And so that's the angle of the beam coincides with the donut shaped beam somewhere out in the throw. Okay. By the way, Holy shit, that's smart. I would never have put together that whole thing just by looking at it. So he must have known that's how these work already. Play button is so far. I need
Standing in, you can't even see it. Now if I go back a little bit further, you can see the reflector reflecting on itself. Now if I go back even further, we can start to see the COB reflecting in the reflector.
That's the chip.
Now if I keep moving further back, the reflection of the COB gets magnified.
Wow.
So this means that the reflector doesn't hit its optical efficiency until you're a fair distance away. Now to give you some idea of how far back I've walked, let's pull out wide.
That's tripped out. The farther back you go, the more magnified the reflector. Yeah, that makes sense, because so the farther back that you're going, the donut-shaped beam is coinciding with itself, and the image is getting bigger is what you're seeing if you're out there. That's a trip.
Now to give you some idea of how far back I've walked, let's pull out wide. So what that means at a close distance is this reflector's drop-off is totally different to your other reflectors. So this could trip you up if you're not anticipating it. So I'll give you an example of what I mean. So let's say we're shooting a soft drink commercial and we're doing it at high speed, thousands of frames per second. So we've got a glass of soft drink, we've got ice cubes falling in.
Austin Paul style.
The splashes in super slow motion. We want all the bubbles in slow motion. What you'd probably be anticipating is if you've got a 30-degree spot reflector, that won't be as bright as the 6-degree reflector here. But that's not the case if you're working in close. If we've got our glass and we've got it 1 meter away from the parallel beam reflector here, we're only getting the light from the COB and the baffle.
From the center.
We are not getting any collection at this distance from the reflector. All of the light coming out of the reflector is going over the top or underneath or around and not onto the product. So if we did a shoot with a glass like this at a distance of 1 meter, you would actually get 4 times more light out of the 30-degree dish than you would out of the parallel beam reflector. So let's go over the numbers.
I'm going to skip over the numbers, and actually I think I'm going to skip through a lot of the drier, slower testing portions, so let's go.
So just a reminder, at a distance of 1 meter, this was 4 times brighter than the parallel beam reflector.
Oh my gosh, look at,
but at
you
a
can see his
distance
sensor's
of
totally
3
fried
meters,
from
the parallel beam reflector
from the beam
is 51% brighter than the 30-degree reflector. So let's take a look at the numbers here. So 1 meter is on the left side and 3 meters is on the right side. Out of 1 meter, everything is a mess. At a distance of 2 meters, you get an obvious donut in the center of the beam, and the color distribution is splotchy. But at a distance of 3 meters, that donut is gone, and all of the color has merged together. Now here you can see just how collected the beam is. With the baffled and the carbon fiber snoot, there is next to no spill light.
It's like the 007 intro. So it's really intended for real far throws. This isn't a light that really can even be used up
However,
close.
at 3 meters, the shadows are unusable. To give you an idea of how much intensity there is.
Jeez, it's lighting up the inside of the van.
So now it's becoming clear to me that the longer the throw, the better the parallel beam reflector performs. So I decided to get the longest throw I possibly could in my townhouse by putting the light on the nature strip and taking the readings at the back of the house. That's a distance of 16.9 meters. Let's start off with the 30-degree reflector first. Now, just a few things to note here. We're getting light bouncing off the ceiling, bouncing off the walls, and bouncing off the floor. This is going to affect the readings, so they're not going to be 100% accurate. One thing I love about this reflector at a distance is how the shadows do look like sunlight. And even though the shadows are terrible with this reflector at close range, at a distance they're really good.
That looks great. That looks great.
Now let's have a look with the parallel beam reflector. And the first thing that struck me is the shadows don't look like sunlight.
I love dogs.
And there's definitely some double shadowing. At a distance of 3 meters, this reflector was only 51% brighter than the 30-degree dish. But at this distance, it's 2.5 times brighter. So I think in order to see what this parallel beam reflector can do, I'm going to need to test in a bigger area. And I think my local park should do it. I've put markers down at 5 metre intervals between 5 metres and 50 metres for me to take my readings. This is where the light is.
Oh, hold on. Wait, let's see this. Let's see
and
this.
this is the 50 metre marker. And to keep things nice and quiet when the sun goes down, I'm running off an EcoFlow Delta. Now at dusk, I'm going
to pause this. I want to say something though. He has cones. I was watching that MKBHD tour with Gerald Undone, and he was talking about, there's always going to be a bunch of reviews, but having things like a red and this big robot arm separates them and makes them more entertaining to watch. What his edge is, he's going to be able to explain things and give you details and solid data that nobody else is even going to know to test for. And I've seen that before, where other reviewers will get gear and they miss something, or they misquote something or something like that, and then I'll watch Gaffer in gear, and he is so meticulous, where he can be. Obviously like this one, he said he's only got it for a couple days, but that already is usually a lot more thorough than a lot of folks will be. They'll test it, or they won't even test it. A lot of folks will just, like me, I'll just read the numbers and then we'll do a comparison. I don't have a light meter. So that's what I love about this channel. And by the way, did you see how far it's blasting down that freaking park? It's 50 meters. Okay.
Some of you might be wondering how well this would perform with a decent reflector system such as the light bridge.
That's
now, just
really
my closing
smart.
thoughts. This does seem like a lot of money,
I would love to see a video
but
where someone tested on a light bridge system like that.
5000 that's coming out next year, then that money would be justifiable for a lot of people. But if you need something like this, maybe it is justifiable. Let me know in the comments below. Now, I do feel a bit out of place doing this review because I've never used anything like a mole beam. So I've got nothing to directly compare this to in terms of my experience as a gaffer. The only lights that I had that had a 6-degree beam are the old school HMIs that I used to own back at the turn of the century. So back in around the year 2000, I owned 1.2K HMI pars and 4K HMI pars. And those lights back then had lenses that you dropped in to change the beam angle. But if you didn't have a lens in and you put the globe into the spot position, you got a 6-degree beam. And those things were insanely bright.
Beam too.
Now, to give you some idea of how these compare to those, and I'm just going off my gut feeling and my memory, this feels about twice as bright as the 1.2K HMI, and it feels about
but I bet those shadows were way sharper in those bars.
But here's the advantages this has over those. It has a very clean beam edge. It's CCT tunable, in this case green magenta tunable. It's dimmable. And it's DMX tunable. But here's the main big difference.
That's all, obviously great advantages. Oh, that's where I bet he destroyed it.
There is next to no heat. So this is way safer than the old technology that we used to have.
No, I guess not. He must have destroyed it somewhere else. All right, there we have it. So a couple things I want to say. That is the baddest ass modifier. I thought it was a light, so that was awesome. If you haven't checked out Gaffer and Gear, start watching. If you guys dig this, let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to watch some more Gaffer and Gear. I mean, I'm watching it all the time anyway, and reacting to it. Let me clean all this up, and we'll get to the outro shot. Okay, thanks everybody for sticking around to the end of the video. Let's talk about this shot before we get to giveaway details. So we got the 5600 coming in, the daylight coming on the key, but because we have all this tungsten accent lights in the background, I wanted to come in with the 2700 on the little 40 watt from Ulanzi, and then I really love the look of those little L3s from Ulanzi as well. The little tiny barn doors, it looks cool. So got the same colors in over here, which I love, little RGB accents, so I decided to go a little bit overboard with the tube light. Coming down with the blue to kind of go with what's back there. And yeah, my favorite part of this setup is I have a little rolling light stand, rolling C-stand, kind of like the one that Caleb Pike uses, that he has his like folding mic arm on, except mine is a lot shorter and it's perfect for these podcast mics instead of like an overhead shotgun. I can roll it up to the couch for a guest. I can roll it like right here. It's perfect for this, a couple different types of arms and mics. And the best part is I've got the iPhone clamped to the riser itself. I mean, it has a lossless recording setting, and I tested it out. It seems to be 32-bit float. I mean, I researched, Google said that the iPhone can do 32-bit float, so for now, it seems to be working really well. So yeah, now giveaway details. Now remember, we still have prizes at 200, 350, and 500 for the grand prize. So for your chance to win, you want to just leave a comment and make sure your Instagram is in there. As soon as we hit each of those goals, I'm just going to grab a random comment, and as long as that person's subscribed, bada bing bada boom, we got our winner. So if you dig making videos, if you dig watching videos about making videos, then I dare say you found your clan. It's good to see you. It's always good to have you, and we'll catch you next time right here at the Diamond Mine. Peace.